All right, it's Thursday night. It's college baseball season. So, got my two friends here, Casey the Beef Cregan, all the way from the island, Jason Priester, upstate of South Carolina. Not in Clemson, not going until tomorrow. He told us in the pre-show. Little illness running through the family. We hope everybody gets better there, JP. But thanks for joining us. Jason Priester of all Clemson Tigers.com. Casey the Beef Cregan, of course, is my partner on Sluggo. He also is on the Message Board Geniuses podcast, who he was telling me pre-show aren't necessarily genius picking college basketball so far. They're in an offer, but it's early. I was in an offer earlier this morning too. And let's not forget the Chop and Beef show Casey's on, which gives me a laugh or 20 every freaking week, or every week they're on. Kevron checks in and says, "Good evening, y'all. Go Tigers." Well, fellas, since the last time we talked, Tigers have started a winning streak or continued a winning streak. I don't remember. We talked Thursday, so they're on a 4-game winning streak since we talked. Sweeping Georgia State and beating the College Charleston on Tuesday. But let's go back to Georgia State because they were down 8-2 in the 8th inning. Looked pretty dead. Georgia State was hitting the ball, I would say all over the park, but all out of the park. They had 4 home runs early. As I said, an 8-2 lead. Cooper Ingle hit a 2-run homer in the bottom of the 8th that made it look respectable, 8-4. And then things happened in the 9th. Clemson scored another 5, capped off by Billy Amick. Grand slam, walk-off home run. Tigers win 9-8. Now, fellas, Clemson is 11-6 now. Who knows if they make the tournament, but if they do, speaking of tournaments, if they do make the tournament, we may look back on March the 10th as the day the tide turned, because this team has not lost since. They beat Georgia State twice on Saturday in a doubleheader in a College Charleston, rallied from a 3-1 deficit to the College Charleston's 4-0. JP, things are looking up since the last time we talked about this Clemson baseball team.
Yeah, they seem to have found a little bit of something here lately. And I'm with you. I think it all started late in that game Friday against Georgia Southern. Big comeback there, and they have looked a little different since that game. Showing a little moxie, showing a little more fight, and we saw it again against College of Charleston Tuesday. Down, come back against one of the best closers in the country, and come back late and win that game.
Very interesting game on Friday night. Another thing I didn't mention in that little rundown, Beef, Cooper Ingle and Cam Canarella had 5 hits each. I don't remember a game, not even in Little League, because usually they can get 5 at-bats, but the 2 guys on the same team had 5 hits. That's pretty crazy.
I think it was Ron Smith that said he just wakes up and hits. It's amazing, Cam Canarella, man, and we knew what Cooper Ingle could do. He kind of started a little slow at this beginning of the year, but he's still a tough out. So it was awesome to see that. Yeah, the resiliency was awesome this weekend. I thought once they won Friday, it almost felt like they were gonna sweep the series. The pitching was really good. Grice was nasty on Sunday. It was just a lot of fun. It was a good weekend of Clemson baseball.
Our friend Drew from Nachos and Analysis says Friday versus Georgia State was electric.
He's out there in the right field, the Cajun Cafe, he's spoiled out there.
Well, I think he was looking for JP in the press box with a plate of food. That
JP going on rare weekends, I'm not there.
He would like a rain check on that, Drew. Appreciate you.
Absolutely. I'll be back this weekend.
We're all about getting JP his food. Well, I lost my train of thought. We're talking about food. Johnny Sarian checks in and asks if the bullpen was going to improve, but that was going to be one of my points. The bullpen did pretty well in holding Georgia State down and the College of Charleston. Not perfect, but the doubleheader, I wrote some notes here, fellas. In the DH in the 10-2 win on Saturday, Reed Garris and Joe Allen combined for 5.2 scoreless innings in relief of Tristan Smith. They kind of held Clemson jumped out to a big lead, but the bullpen kind of came in, and Garris has been more of a contributor than I thought. he was a catcher last year, right, JP? If I remember correctly, he caught like a game or two at the very end of the season, if I remember correctly. You're not remembering it. Maybe I'm not remembering it. Casey, anybody? Am I
Yeah,
making
yeah,
that up?
I do remember it. I think he
It
had
was only
6
a
at
game or
bats on
two.
the
Yeah,
It wasn't
he
a
sat
lot.
on the bench for 52 games, I think, and then played the last couple of games. But anyway, he has really come on. He's been a big help. As I mentioned, they jumped out to a 6-0 lead. They held on to win 10-7 in game 2. They fell behind the College Charleston 3-1, rallied 4-3 to win 4-3. And again, it was Allen and Garris out of the bullpen. They played a big role in Jackson Lindley finished the game. But I don't think the bullpen's been that terrible. I think I looked today and they have a 3.90 ERA in 90 innings, which tells you something right there. The bullpens, the starters aren't going very long, obviously. So, JP, your take on the bullpen?
I think it's just taken a little while for Eric Bakich and the rest of that staff to find the best roles for each guy. And I think they're starting to find where guys slide in and are best fit in at, beginning of the season, we were seeing more of guys like Jay Dill, Ty Olenchuk. Now here lately, we're seeing more of Reed Garris and Darden. And it was Darden started the midweek game, but Darden and the other freshman that you just mentioned, Joe Allen. I just think it's taken a little bit of time to get some of those roles defined. And now that you got Willie Weiss back, that's another piece. If once you can get him fully back anyway, he's still yet to go more than an inning. I'm not sure how all the way back he is. I guess we'll find out this weekend. You get him back, and then if you can get Ryan Ammons back, that's only going to help the pen too, because that's going to take somebody that's having to start and put them back out in that bullpen, and that's only going to help a little bit more.
Beef?
Yeah, I think the implosion at South Carolina at Flair Field, I guess, is the elephant in the room. But I think since that game, they've kind of been solid. Have they been shut down? Absolutely not, outside of the Allen Garris the other day, as you mentioned, Marty. But I don't. You said it in a text, Marty, to me, and probably JP too. The management of the bullpen has gotten better, but that's also probably, like JP said, because they now are trying to finally get a feel of what they have and who. I mean, it looks like you're going to get starter Garris, Allen, or vice versa, as was the case this week. That's going to be the role. You just know whoever it is, it's going to be Garris, Allen, and then Lindley probably, and maybe Willie Weiss at the end. It's feeling more like you know what you're going to get, which is really good. And I think that probably makes Eric Bakich feel better too, that he knows what he's going to get each outing. But there's going to be a bullpen implosion. It's going to happen again.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely, when you're going to them as much as they are, they're getting 3 or 3 1/3 out of the starters. I mean, eventually you're bound to give up some runs. But that was a great point, Beef. He's probably referring back to South Carolina. It probably is not out of anybody's mind yet, especially Ty Olenchuk, who I think broke his neck looking at the balls flying out of the park against South Carolina. Yeah, there was a good point. Andrew here has a point that I was going to bring up in a minute, but let's go ahead and get to it. I texted JP during one of the games and said, Grice is really still struggling at the plate. He's not close. And JP responded with, they're not even scared of throwing fastballs now. Remember last year they threw the off-speed stuff, and he was way off on that stuff. They kept throwing it. But this year they're throwing fastballs, and he's missing those too, JP. Andrew asked if is he going to be a pitchers only looking forward?
Yeah, I don't know. We'll have to see how that one plays out. But I do remember after the South Carolina game in Columbia, Eric Bakich saying something about, and it was kind of weird the way he worded it, about Grice being used as a pitcher moving forward. But obviously he's played in the field and hit some since then. And there's no doubt Grice is struggling mightily. He is struggling mightily. He's got 2 RBIs on the season. Just struggling big time at the plate. He's not, again, like you said, last year they were scared to throw him fastballs. Nobody's scared to throw him anything right now. They're just coming right at him, and he's just swinging and missing, swinging and missing, swinging and missing. But you've got another option there. We've seen Billy Emmett can fill in admirably. So we'll see how that plays out.
Beef?
Yeah, and even Chad Ferry a little bit at first too has been okay as well. If it's going to help the kid with his confidence, and he looked outstanding for what, 3 innings that he pitched, 2 innings the other day. He struck out 6 guys in 2 innings. I mean, he was nasty with his stuff. So if it's going to help him, why not? I don't know. Play him every other day, put him in a DH role one day of the weekend. I don't know how it works, how it shakes out, but there's some bats that are really coming along. You said Billy Amick and obviously Canarella. We know that, but you're starting to get a good feel of even the lineup that Clemson's going to trot out there every day, and that's kind of nice too because it's working.
It'll be interesting to see what they do with the rotation once Ryan Ammons gets back.
Yep, good thing. And I was going to say, Beef, you mentioned about me saying that the bullpen's being managed better. I lost my train of thought again. I'm getting old, fellas. The bullpen's being managed better. Now, it's kind of like the chicken or egg, right? You can bring somebody in and you look like a fool if they don't pitch well, but it just seems like he's making the right moves. It seemed like Monty Lee and Andrew C. I always feel wrong when I say that, but it seemed like they left guys in too long at times. Like they were trying to save arms and not trying to win games. If that makes any sense, like they would have probably given up, and that's probably too harsh of a word. They probably would have left, Tristan Smith in there longer on the first game on Saturday, or that would have made sense. That was 10-2. Maybe Friday night they make different moves or don't make as many moves. It seems like Bakich and Bellinger don't give up on games. They're it's whatever it was, 8-2 Friday, and they're holding on, still putting competitive pitchers out there, I guess is what I'm saying, hoping that the team can come back. Even when it was 8-2 in the bottom of the 8th, before Cooper Ingo hit his home run, it just seems like it's being managed better. And I realized if they would have lost Friday night and lost to the College Charleston, I probably wouldn't be feeling this way. But I mean, that's what winning gets you, right? You start feeling better about things, and I just think they're managing that bullpen better. Do you agree with that, JP?
Absolutely. There were many times during Monty Lee's tenure that I used to think they waved a white flag and giving up on this game, and it would dictate how they managed the pitching staff the rest of that game. And I've yet to get the feeling from this new staff that they've waved the white flag in any game yet. I have been very pleased with how the bullpen's been managed. Do not hesitate to come take a guy out when it's time. They don't leave him in too long. And Bellinger's got a very good feel for that thing right now. And again, I think they are finally starting to get those roles defined, and that's going to be a big help once they get everybody in it, more of a defined role.
Absolutely. And Beef, how do you feel the same way? They're doing a little bit better managing the bullpen, and even the visits I think are well timed, right? They're not. It just seemed weird under Lee and C. Like they go out and visit when it was 1-0 or something. I don't know, maybe a selective memory, but they just seem to be managing the staff as a whole better.
I think you said it perfectly before. Winning cures all ills. So they're on a 5-game winning streak right now. So we got our orange-colored glasses on, I think. But it does, because they're winning, make it feel like all the things he's pulling, all the strings he's pulling, I can't even get my cliches right, are working. So of course we're going to think they're the right moves. But it does feel that way though.
Yeah, it just feels better. It looks like I don't know, maybe it's more just by the book, and that's kind of the way I am.
It's more fun to watch. I mean, yeah. I get to watch from my couch, but it's more fun to watch. Even the other day down, you still didn't feel like they were out of it. 8-2, yeah. I may have switched the channel a couple times. I did keep checking back. But on Wednesday night, I didn't, or Tuesday night, I kept it on, and it was just still fun to watch, and they battled. And I don't know, it was great.
Eight to 2. I was just watching for Canarella. I just wanted to see him bat again. All right, coming up on Friday is the Duke Blue Devils, who, as we were joking pre-show, everybody in the ACC is 11-6. Duke's 11-6. They've played Wake in ACC play 1-2 against Wake. Duke's 11-6. Clemson's 11-6. Florida State's 11-6. Miami's 11-6. I think, or there's a fourth team that's 11-6. May not be Miami, but anyway, Duke, as I mentioned, lost to Wake Forest last weekend, 2 out of 3. This is a team, Casey, that can score some runs. They put 50 up on Baylor in 3 games, including 2 games of 20 or more. I think they had 2 20-run outbursts and then a 10-run outburst to end up with 50 in that series. They scored 15 against our friends from Presbyterian, who I think have the same schedule as Clemson, just in a different order. We see them every week, have played the team that's coming up against Clemson. Duke can put it on the board, Beef, and go ahead and talk about Duke, and then we'll talk about the rotation for this
head
weekend.
coach Chris Pollard in his 10th season has completely turned that team around, that program. When I was in school, that was a weekend off. So really impressive squad, top to bottom in their lineup. And again, it's kind of like my dream. You know who Pollard's going to throw out there every day. He's used the same lineup outside of one person for just about every one of his games this year, all 17 games. Really impressive on the mound. They actually start a left-hander on Friday night, Jonathan Santucci, and he's got the worst ERA of the 3 guys at 3.93. But don't let that fool you. He's going up against everybody. Wake Forest long-haired kid who's fantastic. I can't remember his name, but he's going up against everybody else's Friday night starter, and he's still putting up 3.93. Opponents are only hitting 2.17 against him. The team ERA for Duke is 2.57, and up and down the lineup, it's very consistent. There's no guy that has more than 4 home runs, but the team has hit 24. So not a ton of long balls, but they hit 4 last night against Presbyterian. Like I said, 4 home runs is the leader, but they have everyone in the top 12, 13 has a home run for Duke, and they're led by their shortstop leadoff hitter Alex Mooney. He's a sophomore. He's hitting 375, 528 slugging percentage, 440 on base, 968 OPS. So the guy is 7 for 7 in stolen bases. That's really the straw that stirs the drink for them. But they, like I said, up and down the lineup, they're hitting 375, 370, 320, 314, 303, 300. And then you're at the 289s, 281s, and 270s at the 9-hole hitter. So this is a really good team. You got a junior right-hander going Saturday in Adam Bouchard, and you got a right-hander graduate student, Alex Gow, with a .71 ERA in 4 starts going on Sunday for Duke. This is a good team.
The Duke Blue Devils, a good baseball team. As I almost said before, Casey's gave us a rundown on Duke. The rotation for Clemson is Austin Gordon on Friday, Tristan Smith on Saturday, Caden Grice on Sunday. Now, JP, you were talking about hopefully Ryan Ammons will come back. But what do you think about this rotation? I believe this rotation is last weekend, but what's your feeling about this rotation in general?
You know, Austin Gordon, for the most part, has been pretty consistent this year. I know he didn't have his best stuff. That cutter wasn't really working his last start. When he's got that cutter working, he's really good. We've all seen the potential Tristan Smith has. That guy, I think he's going to be a superstar. And I am very anxious to see how Caden Grice pitches again this weekend, 2nd start in a row. Again, I didn't get to watch the games last Saturday, so I didn't see Caden pitch. I just saw the numbers. So I'm anxious to see how he throws this weekend, because this is going to be a big test. I look at it like, you got a good gauge of where you were at early in the season when you played South Carolina. Now here comes another team that can knock the cover off of the ball, maybe not with quite the same power, but they hit the ball. They're a very good hitting baseball team, and you get to see how much that staff's improved, over the last few weeks.
Beef?
This is definitely a step up in competition, even from UCF, who swept the Tigers. Another win that Duke had was against 9th-ranked ECU. So this team they swept Baylor, like you said. They beat 9th-ranked ECU. They took a game from Wake, who was preseason top 5. I mean, this is a good baseball team that it's going to be. Let's get 1 and hope for 2 is what I'm thinking for this weekend.
You can't take away much from one baseball game, but they crushed East Carolina Fires. Remember correctly, like 9-0. And the Presbyterian team that gave Clemson a hard time a couple of weeks ago, they beat them 15-1. I don't know who's pitching, so it could have been just somebody out there for pitching that not their best pitcher. But anyway, sounds like a good team coming into Clemson this weekend. 3-game series. Clemson's opening the ACC play. What do they play? 30 games, or did they cut it back? I don't remember. They got a lot of conference games coming up. I know that. And this is the first of 3. Next week, Clemson hosts Winthrop on Tuesday and starts traveling. They travel to Kennesaw State on Wednesday and then spend the weekend in Atlanta at Georgia Tech. Now, we're not going to have a show next week. I'm going to be in Vegas. I'll be landing about this time next Thursday. Already trying to fund my account over at the Westgate Superbook. I just happened to be lucky in the basketball tournaments going on while I'm going to be in Vegas. It's funny how that worked out, fellas. So no show next week. Anybody know anything about Georgia Tech? Casey, I didn't ask you to do any research on it, but I'm not sure if how good they are or aren't this year.
I haven't watched them yet. However, I know their numbers are very similar to last year as far as they can still hit, but they're not pitching it very well. So I'll dig deep. JP may know more, but that's what I'm hearing right now.
You always know Georgia Tech's going to hit even when they can't pitch. They can always hit, it seems like.
Yeah, they're going to win games 15-14 and 22-21 and that kind of thing.
If I remember correctly, last year it was something else watching that team try and pitch. I mean, it seems like you could find somebody that was better than what they had, but they found all the hitters. Believe me, they found all the hitters. Okay, like I said, Winthrop Tuesday, Kennesaw State Wednesday, Georgia Tech next weekend. But before that, Duke Blue Devils, an improved and good Duke team, according to Casey the Beef Cregan, and he's our research expert. So we trust him. All right, you can find Casey's work. Don't forget, Casey's on the Message Board Genius podcast. He is one of the geniuses. Chop and Beef podcast is hilariously funny. And Jason, you can find his work on all ClemsonTigers.com. Jason, I know you've been pumping out the stuff about spring practice. What do you got going on over there? Anything else? And recruiting, by the way. Recruiting, spring practice, JP's your guy.
Yeah, a lot of spring football right now. A little bit of baseball. Might be a little recruiting. We'll see.
Little bit of recruiting. There's always a little bit of recruiting in JP's world. For Casey the Beef Cregan and Jason Priester of all ClemsonTigers.com, I'm Marty Coleman. Thanks for watching, and we'll talk to you in 2 weeks. No show next week, folks. Thanks for watching. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.